Your name's not down, you're not coming in.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Raw, the 90s Rave Podcast. Just a little pre-warning, this episode does contain language and themes which some of you may find offensive or upsetting. But ultimately, we hope you enjoy it. Cheers. So we're still here with MC Magika. We've talked a lot about how he first got into performing, his early days in the rave scene, but interested to know about his big breaks. You did, perform with Pilgrim at Fantasia's legendary One Step Beyond event in 1992 at Castle Donington. Was that the moment that you thought, I've made it here?
Not quite made, and that's being honest. I just thought, at the time, I didn't think anything. I just thought, oh my God. I thought, oh my God, another opportunity, another stripe, another networking opportunity. And we talked about drugs earlier, right? And I said, I never take drugs. If you'd have saw me that night, you would have said to me now, listen, there was no way you was not on drugs. I was flying on adrenaline and natural cortisol. I was all over the shop. Literally, I couldn't believe it that I was going to go on. And it was a very exciting moment.
How did it come about?
Basically, just went to the rave with Pilgrim and his manager Ronnie. Got backstage with them, and then said, "Look, can I go on for you?" And Ronnie said to the stage manager, "We want Magica to go on." And Pilgrim was a big endorser for me. I remember going to Quest for the first time and going on, and he came up to me straight away and he said, "Listen, you need to be here every week. You're brilliant, mate." And we've always, he's been a great supporter of mine, Paul. And I like to feel like I've always supported him as well.
Well, he's a good guy, and he's been supporting Gus as well in terms of trying to get some guests and that sort of stuff. We will get him on at some point because he is one of these originators. We definitely will. And actually, haven't had any sort of people, like the jungle techno sound. So we 100% will at some point. You've also got to know Fantasia promoter James Perkins, and you became a resident host for Club Fantasia, and then you pitched yourself to Paul Schur at Universe, which led you to perform many of their events, including some of the tribal gatherings. It must have been such an exciting time for you as a performer.
Yeah, it was a great time. It was a great time to meet the people I did and build relationships, and it was all driven off a surge of energy of getting through. It wasn't easy, mate, as I said. And I'm not here to get the violins out. It was a very, very tough thing, especially being Asian. It did have its drawbacks. But I showed them that I was a kid who had what it took. I'm very energetic. I was very polite at the times, even though I had my moments.
What happened?
Mate, there was times when I didn't know how to communicate. I've made mistakes throughout the years and probably acted a twat in places. Of course, who hasn't? And I did.
I have. I mean, I don't know if anyone listens to this would say they've never acted like a twat.
Listen, and I did, and I had my moments. But generally, I met a lot of people. It was very exciting. I got to break down a lot of doors, and a lot of those doors and a lot of those opportunities led to the rest of the journey, just for me to continue. And even if there wasn't an opportunity, I'd make an opportunity happen. I'd create an opportunity because I was always looking for the next opportunity. I knew that I had to push myself. No one was going to push me. I wasn't going to get my phone ringing off. Yes, there was a time when my phone started to ring.
What you were in terms of opportunities and creating opportunities for yourself. Let's talk about the Carl Cox concept. We touched upon it a little bit earlier in this episode. Yeah. You were alongside Carl and prodigy engineer Neil McClellan. You toured the UK, did lots of memorable gigs, including Vibalite 3 and the Universe Open Air.
Overseas as well, mate. Loads of overseas shows
as well. Yeah. Touring Europe alongside Sven Vath, Laurent Garnier, etc. How did you create that opportunity? Tell us.
That opportunity came about from being in the right place at the right time. It's like being scouted in any profession. Just, it was like there was Carl, there was people around Carl as well. And he was seeing me at Kinetic. And I had this thing with Kinetic, this bond. And I remember being booked there for the first time ever. And they weren't really into booking guest MCs. And they'd heard about me. because they'd seen me on the circuit doing certain things and certain events. And when I got there, I wasn't advertised on the flyer. And I remember actually ringing their office saying, I've been booked for the event, but I've just seen I'm not on the flyer, because obviously there was no internet. Someone rang me and said, you're not on the flyer. Are you sure you're on there? So I rang them, and I remember speaking to one of the promoters, and he went, I'm really sorry you're not on there. Yeah, you're on. Please come. So I got there, and I remember, this is a memory, and we'll go back into the whole Carl Cox thing. And I remember going in, and it was absolutely heaving, Tom. Heaving. This place was unreal. The energy in there, it was just, ecstatic, euphoric, and noisy. And I remember going on the mic and then just saying my name. And that's probably a moment where I felt I arrived, because even though it was noisy, it was the surge towards me, the rush to even just touch me was mental. I was shocked, really shocked. And even on the way home, I was quiet, and they said, why are you so quiet? And even that, they said, now we understand that was something else, G. And I was like, yeah, I knew it was mad. It was something I'll never forget.
As someone who says they were quite shy and quiet as a youngster and a kid, what was it about that sort of moment where you're just feeling a rush and a surge and people are buzzing off you that appealed so much? Because you'd think that someone who's shy and retiring wouldn't really like that sort of thing.
No, but I was shy and quiet because I just didn't express myself, Tom. Probably didn't have the confidence to express myself, and I was quite reserved. Even when I became well known, I was still reserved. Listen, there was people, I remember having incidences at certain raves and going to certain raves and hearing certain feedback. He doesn't talk to us. It wasn't I didn't talk to people. I just walked past them, and I'd think to myself, who am I to come out the way and big myself up to you? So I'd just be quiet and put my head down and walk. And sometimes that was perceived in the wrong way. He thinks he's something, something special. And I never did. I was just quiet, But when I got up there, the quiet was left. This was my place to express myself. This was the place where I didn't feel alone, and I felt happy.
Well, John Sharkey, it's the very same. He's got in touch with us to ask you a question. And he says, emceeing for Carl Cox must have been every MC's dream. He's the god of DJs. When you started as Imran before Magica, what dreams did you have of music? And did you ever think you'd achieve something as crazy cool as that?
Listen, man, you know what? Just back to Sharkey. I've been having some conversations with him lately, and what an intelligent, vibrant man. And a lovely soul. And I'm not going to lie, man, I was once homophobic, mate. I was. And I treat people, as I'm getting older, I treat people as one. Doesn't matter where you come from and who you are. And if he lived in Birmingham, mate, I'd be around that guy loads. He was such a joy and a fresh air to talk to the other day. And I just thought, how funny is life, this situation and that person making that comment and stuff about, blah, blah, blah. And I was just thinking, look at this now. Such a lovely guy. Did
you have issues with him back in the day because of the things that we talked about earlier about your mum getting calls from some of his crew, and were you homophobic to him back then?
No, I was never homophobic. Never homophobic. When I mean homophobic, just an opinion.
Right.
I would have never associated and stuff like that. Because it just wouldn't have happened. And but that's irrelevant now. And people are people, and it's all about respecting one another. You know what I mean? And he shows impeccable respect, and he's such an intelligent guy, and it was just so good to talk to him.
I know that he's well. We've spoken too. I can let some of the people who are listening to this know he is well. He is on the mend. He's on the mend. He's not quite there yet, but he's been through a heck of a lot. Anyone that doesn't know, go and search Jonathan Neath Mail on Sunday, and it'll explain to you exactly why he's in the position he is. But he's getting better, and he is. He listens to this pod every week. He says it's one of the highlights of his week, which is incredibly touching. And we are hoping at some point we will get him on the show.
He called me last night. Says, "Wish me luck." He said, "When are you doing it?" I said, "I'm doing it tomorrow." He said, "Listen, man, please go and smash it." And I was like, I will, mate. Yeah,
good. So,
yeah,
he's a legend, and as I said before, you know, whenever we've talked about him, we all send him our best. Well, now we're actually able to do it because he's in touch with us, and we are sending him his best. And there's loads of love, and hopefully he's going to. Well, he's got some news for people as well. He's back. He's coming back to the scene. That's what we'll say, and it's fantastic news. I won't say any more because it's his place to tell that, but it's really positive for him. So back to Carl Cox. How did that all come about? Because you still haven't said it. How did this Carl Cox concept come about, and why you?
Okay, so the Carl Cox come about because Carl had various people around him, and they were saying, "Listen, you should go live. You should go live. You should compete with the best. You've got a big name, big following." And he had the ultimate weapon in Neil McLennan. Neil McLennan was a driving force and still is with the Prodigy today, and behind most of their hits and integral engineer. And so they formed their live concept, and aptly, you know, called it the Carl Cox Concept. And Carl got to see me in action, and he saw me in action at Kinetic first, and he saw what I did there and how I drove the crowd to the point where I got the crowd even shouting out his name loud. You had like 2,000 people going, Carl Cox, and what DJ's not going to like adoration? Yeah, right. and then that adoration, and then it was just the mayhem that I caused and the little tricks we did in hyping up the crowd. And it happened when I went to Ulster to do Ulster Hall in Ireland, and he'd already done his PA set, and I watched it from the sideline, and then he went on to do a DJ set, and just before the DJ set there was another, I don't know who the guy was, but I emceed for somebody, and I did my thing, I was doing my thing, and during Carl's set there was a in-house promoter called Pablo, who was an Italian living in Ireland, just moved to Ireland and been there a few years as part of the firm, and he was emceeing. And Neil McLennan came over and he went, "This should be you. You need to be on that set. Can you get on, please?" And I said, "Of course." So I went over. I said, "It'd be better if you speak to the guy," because, as again, I was pretty quiet and stuff, and I didn't want to go over to the guy. You know, it was his thing. And so Neil went over. He goes, "Can you let that guy on?" And the guy was like, "Yeah." And that set gets talked to about this day. I see it pop up all the time. And I did my thing, and at the end of the set, we had to. It was a great experience. We had to leave the event, and we went into this vehicle, and I'm telling you, man, it was like I was with, like, in the van. We take that, and all these screaming fans chasing this vehicle with like a police escort. It was mental and surreal. I was like, "Is this how you live?" And he went, and he went, "Well, not all the time, but occasionally, yes." And I was like, got to the hotel. They've got like the security had to follow the vehicle to the hotel to see us get out. To see him get out of the vehicle, and then they ushered us into the hotel. And then I'm like, wow. And then I get a call to my room, and it's Neil. He says, "Mate, can you come up to our room, man? Come and have a drink." So I've gone up to the room, and I'm sat with Neil and Carl. And then Neil's just like, "Yeah, man, wicked." He's just bigging it up. They haven't dropped it yet. I kind of had an idea, just a little idea. Well, I was hoping I got probably more so. And then I got Carl just came out and he said, "Listen, how do you feel about touring with us?" And
okay.
It wasn't as quick. I was a bit shocked.
I'm surprised. Yeah. Oh yeah, a bit shocked. Yeah, true. Get over the shock and then say yes. I
was a bit shocked. I was just like, and he goes, he just say yes, man. And I went, I'm so honoured. I don't know what to say. And that was it. The rest was history. And then I got tagged with him, and then we did the Carl Cox Concept. We supported Prodigy on loads of shows.
So whose idea was the Carl Cox Concept?
Carl.
Right.
Carl, yeah.
And it was very much involving you, though.
Yeah, well, when he put the act together, they needed a front man.
Right.
And it had to be someone youthful. You know, I'm a lot younger than them guys, and I was coming through, and obviously a bit different as well. And stuff, and it did the job, and they gave me the chance and the opportunity. And he's put a little quote on the cover of my book, which I'm still pinch myself just to be able to say, look, he's put on the cover of my book. I never kind of. I can't remember it word for word now, but it's like, basically there was no one like him who could hype a crowd. And for him to say that even now, because it's just what I did. I'm not saying listen, it's not about me competing with such and such and blah, blah, blah. It was about what I did. That was it. And I served and I fit the purpose at that time for what he did. And it worked. And I became then tagged with him. Even when he did his DJ sets, I was getting booked left, right, and centre to go and perform with him, and it would naturally happen.
What was your highlight of working with the Carl Cox Concept?
I remember something I'll never forget. At the Big Love, early in the morning, place was pretty tired now, mate. Sun was out. 7, 8 in the morning, and people are battered, and we'd gone on. We woke the place up. I just went into me. It doesn't matter if the place was dead to me. I just went into me and did what I had to do. Because if I didn't feel no energy, how are they going to feel energy? So I'm going into like rock and roll mode. I'm just doing like a Steven Tyler from the Aerosmith, just jumping jacks and moving up and down. And I remember looking over to my left, to my right, sorry, and I looked at the bottom and I saw, God rest his soul, Keith Flint looking at me, smiling, because I was going for it. I was in a state. Again, if you'd have thought I wasn't on drugs, you would have called me a liar. And he was looking at me, and then Liam was there, and the Prodigy were there and stuff. And when I came off, Carl said, "I saw them looking at you, man," and he said, "That's big props. This is why you're here." And yeah, proud man.
Amazing. I bet it was. But your time together as a Carl Cox Concept was quite short-lived. Was that to do with the fact that he left the scene? I mean, he stopped being a hardcore DJ.
Yeah. He started to, even when I was with him, I had to go sometimes and stay at his house in Horsham because of the gigs and stuff we were doing and whatnot. And I remember going to one gig we did, and it was like some mad gig we did, man, in Cardiff, where it was like on the bill was like E17. At the time, they had that big #1 Christmas hit and stuff, and then there was us because he was going to apparently chart, which we just missed out on. And we jumped in the car, and then he went to some house gig in Brighton. And while we were in the car, he started changing out of his rave attire, putting on a bloody Paul Smith shirt and stuff, and getting to go and do this other gig, and it was happening. Then we went to Germany. I remember being in Germany. We played this big rave on an air base. It was a Universe show, and then there was another one, and Prodigy were there and stuff, and Ultrasonic were there, and then he did the one set, and then he had to go into the other room with like Westbound and DJ Darg and Tanith and European Pascal Fayos and Sven Vath, and is in, or Sven Vath or Vath, what people say, how you pronounce it. But he went into that room, and it was like, and I walked in there and I could see. And then I remember being at Dance Valley when I was hired to go to Dance Valley, and I've introduced him on the stage where he's performing to all those type of that audience, and I could just see what was happening. It was he was so received, so well received into that community. He was already a legend and like an icon, a guru even to all them artists. They were like, we're not worthy. Even though he came from that place, there was no sort of stigma of like, who are you coming into our scene? It was, nah, man. He was accepted, like wholeheartedly, welcomed, embraced massively by the industry and the community and the ravers as such. And I could see that was going to happen. But all the way through that, I've always stayed in touch. We've always done a show here and there. And then at one point, I remember they were getting so many inquiries for him to come and do an old school set. And even like, for me, being asked to go along, which honoured, just didn't want to do it. He didn't need to do it. And I think it was at best of all. He did one unannounced, just himself. And he just pulled out the tunes, and he loves that era because he's been doing it on his Cabin Fever sessions. He goes back and explores and stuff. And we did the 25-year anniversary. We're talking about a 30-year anniversary, which should have been happening this year. We've talked about doing it. So, there'll be another.
I hope you've got 100 grand, G.
He's my friend.
You'll find it. Yeah, I've got something down the back of the sofa, Carla. I've got something here. But what? So, how did you feel about that? Because you could see, that's really interesting. You could see him moving into this new world, which I assume, because as well, let's be honest, rave scene was massive in that early '90s period, and it did shrink somewhat. I think probably towards as it diversified into techno and trance and all the different areas. If you could see that happening, that would obviously as well mean that it's the end of the Carl Cox concept, which has only really just started fairly recently, and you're loving. How did you feel about him seeing that happen and going, I'm gonna lose this now?
I actually never thought that. It was sad more than me saying I'm going to lose that, because I actually thought that we could do our own thing as some of the other live acts that were on the circuit. I thought we could have had our own sort of run, if you like. Like the Prodigy were out there doing their own thing, touring, and I thought we could do that as well. We could go and tour. We could do the festival circuit. We could go all over the world doing this. I saw it as a huge opportunity. But there was a lot of other things that were not working around the Carl Cox concept. So he was signed to Perfecto, and the first release was supposed to chart. And I know Carl felt that Perfecto weren't managing the situation properly. I think Paul Oakenfold had some stuff going on, some personal stuff, and it just didn't work out. So, with the rave scene, I mean, listen, the plan is we're going to get Carl here, and then you can ask Carl yourself all these lovely questions. But I think he did say to me on many, many, many numerous occasions that he could have stayed in the rave scene, playing the way he did, staying in that circuit, and staying at the top for years, but he saw a bigger picture, and he wanted to go and look at that and explore it, and so he did, and he never looked back.
I've heard he's done all right.
Amazing.
he's found a modicum of success over the years in his techno.
Listen, he's at next level. That's a serious vessel there. Carl's. It's a serious machine. And
did you try to convince him at any point to keep going, and he just had none? He was just
no. I respected him, and loved him so much. It wasn't for me to say. What I did do is just try to encourage him to do a couple of blasts from the past now and then. Listen, your friends now to this day, right? What's he like as a person now? Because of course, fame and wealth like that can go to some people's heads. Listen, he's still just Carl. He's got so much time for people. He's impeccably polite, and he's just an all-round nice guy, and that's why people connected with him. He's a larger-than-life character.
Are you surprised by how successful he became? I mean, no, could you have anticipated it though? Not
at all. Totally. I saw it then. It's things that I saw, because remember, I was around him. I saw things, and he was successful then. In '93, when I went to his house, he had a lovely house in a nice area. Nice cars, and he was travelling. He was making money. He was doing well. It was only going to get bigger and better because there was no stopping to him. There was so much more that was going to come out from Carl, and I'm not surprised at all. No. I mean, especially with the way the scene went, and how big and commercial the scene went as well. And fees go up and audiences pick up, because at the end of the day, it's like a footballer. A footballer will get loads of money because they've got so many spectators, 40, 50, 60,000 people coming to watch them play. You know what I mean?
I went to Ultra Music Festival a couple of years ago, and I spent my entire weekend at the Carl Cox megastructure. And if you've got a megastructure named after you, then you're probably doing all right. He was obviously incredibly wealthy and successful. Does he fancy perhaps sponsoring a small 90s rave podcast?
Listen, you know what? When you get him here, why don't you ask him? because we're going to get him here. He's a lovely guy, and I'm sure when he sees all this, he's going to give you some time. You can ask him yourself.
We will do. We really hope you're enjoying yet another one of Raw's in-depth interviews about the rave scene, which we are proud to say are now all curated into the British Library Sound Archive. All of us here at Raw HQ love how much you love what we do, and your generous one-off donations have been a huge help in covering our initial costs. But we're now a team of 5 putting in a combined 80 hours a week for no wages, with big plans to expand further, and so our costs are going up. As such, we could really use your help to keep Raw growing and developing, as you've seen us do since our launch in July 2020. First up, go and check out our brand new website. It's rawuk.com, where you can find loads of cool extra content, and you can grab Raw's first ever range of merchandise. That's rawuk.com for our new flashy website. We've also launched a new membership scheme where you can support us financially to create more content on an ongoing basis for less than the price of an oat milk cappuccino, plus you get great perks in return. Head to patreon.com/rawukpods. That's patreon.com/rawukpods to see exactly what's on offer. You can also join our YouTube membership, which is basically the same. Or if you're not asked about a membership, but you'd like to support us with a few quid as a one-off or a repeat donation, then head to our website and click the PayPal link. A reminder of that new website URL, yet again, rawuk.com. Big love and respect to you all. Please keep supporting us. Hope you enjoyed the rest of the act. So, MC Magika, you also struck up a friendship over the years with promoter Murray Beetson, who he was the Dreamscape promoter, and you became a regular host for them at the Sanctuary. What was it that made Murray, who of course sadly died in a car crash in the mid-90s, such a special and fondly remembered promoter?
I think starting off, he was an innovator. He was there at the golden era. He was there from the beginning. He made moves that are historically archived and etched forever. Sanctuary, Milton Keynes, enough said. Can't go any further than that. It's just, you know what I'm saying? God rest his soul. But he, very special with what he did, with what he achieved there. He was a raver. He loved it. He lived it. And as I said, it would have been amazing to have seen what would have unfolded or what would have happened if you'd have been here today. Because I would have just...
What do you think?
I think he would have probably... We'll talk about Dave, but I think he might have gone down that route. I think he might have outgrown this. I think he would have definitely gone to even bigger festival levels. He would have taken it as big as he could have. You know, whether it be filling the stadium or something crazy would have happened. What was it
about his personality and his approach that would have led him to that, do you think?
Listen, man, he was just a driven guy, and he was chilled, and he wanted to be the best, and it was like the slogan, the subheader of his brand, the standard has been set. He was competitive in what he wanted to do. He wanted to be the best out there, and he was revered by a lot of people. A lot of people didn't like him. I remember promoters and stuff, and that whole thing, success breeds that contempt and that jealousy, and he had it. I saw it myself around him. I remember him being at a rave at Cornwall outside Dance Planet, and Dance Planet wouldn't let him in the rave because he was the big dog and blah 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 and all kinds of things, and I was just like, what? It was mad. It's politics, mate. But he's a special promoter. My relationship with him didn't start out so smooth.
You surprised me, G. You do often fall out with people. So it's anyway. Listen, tell me how you got in with.
But that's not how I want to be remembered. But anyway, the more we talk about it, that's what they are going to remember.
No, don't be daft. I think people are seeing you. If people don't see you in a new light after this, then they're beyond seeing you in a new light at any point. To be honest, well, but realistically as well, you talk about you've learned lessons, you've done things. We're exploring those.
You're a professional journalist, and for you to say that means a lot. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what I hope people are going to see, the real, because they don't know me, man. You know what I'm saying? Going up online and posting, we hate him because he ruined this set or blah, blah, blah. Some of the things I've read, which I hope you're going to pick up on, it's just like, you don't know me. You don't know me.
Well, they're getting to know you now. But tell me about your rocky intro to Murray Beetson.
So Murray saw me at Mythology, and I, at the time, because wanted to be known and seen by people and promoters, I had a jacket, cheesy as it is, and my name was on the back. And I was emceeing at Mythology. Obviously, he didn't book They didn't book MCs there. And I remember ringing his office the week after, and he says, "Yeah, man, I saw you. I saw your name on the back of your coat." So
job done.
It worked, right? So I networked him, and I said, "Listen, because you're trying to do things, you're trying to get in with these promoters, and you're looking at angles." And I told him about a venue in Hull, which was like a multi-story, almost like a multi-story old warehouse supermarket type ex-building type ex-catalog place, and I told him about it, and I said, "Listen, man, the guy up there's looking for some promoters. Why don't you go and have a look?" And he actually did. He drove up there and he put on Dreamscape, whatever it was called, and lo and behold, my haters will love this. The flyer came out and I wasn't on it, and I remember coming out of a rave, seeing it, heart sinking, jaw dropping, just deflated, tired as well because it was that time of the morning. I remember getting home, and this is going to make you laugh again. Got home, and it was about 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning. Where do you think I went, Tom?
I mean, there's lots of things running through my mind that I probably shouldn't say. Where did you go?
No. Think to this conversation. What
Round
was
this house?
No. What was my communication hub? The telephone box, Tom.
Of course, the famous old telephone box.
Right. And I phoned him at 8 in the morning and left a message.
I bet he loved that.
Right. And he actually answered the phone right after the second, because I gave him a second call. And
oh mate.
Right. And he was like, "Oh, I'm really sorry, man. You know, it's nothing personal. You know, just come, man. Just come up there." And even though I was at that stage in my career where every opportunity I should have knocked at, I didn't go because I felt disrespected. I opened up an opportunity. He had a big event, which went on to sell out. He sold out. The capacity was like 2,400. He'd done it, and I didn't go.
Well, that was fucking stupid.
Nah, it wasn't at the time. No, it was for me, and something I've never shown later on. Just having that integrity and just, sometimes I've never had that and put things aside and gone and worked for people when I shouldn't have. But I didn't go, and then I remember where I was sat at home on the sofa. This was when I was at my mum's. And I was sat on the sofa, and then my phone rang, and it was him. And he said, "How you doing?" I was like, "Yeah, it's Murray." I was like, "Oh, right, you all right?" And then he said, "I've got a gig on in Coventry at the Edge. I want you to come and play, man." And he said, "Listen, man, why didn't you come to the show?" And I goes, "I didn't want to, mate. After that, I got you that opportunity, and because of me, you got an opportunity that happened, came into fruition, and you made a lot of money as well, and you forgot, and you didn't make any effort after that, even to word me up, and even to ring me before the gig and say, 'Listen, man, make sure you come.'" And he said, I'm really sorry for that. And sometimes when you've made mistakes, and I've been there, and I went and played, did the damage, came out. Well, I thought I did the damage because he had the next event, I wasn't on it. So he then rang me again, and then said, "Listen, I'm going to have you at the Sanctuary," and I went there, Tom. I went there and this was something that started to happen a lot with my mental approach on the way to a gig. Started going there because I was a big boxing fan, and I started going there like I was going for a fight. It was the mental, the focus and stuff. And I remember just being quiet in the car and got there and walked in, and I even had a bloody hood over my face. I was just quiet. Yeah, I was just gone. I wanted to be in the zone. Literally. "You're Rocky. You're Adrian. I did it." Right. And then I got in there and I went up, and I took it to a level. I had to. I had to. I had a platform now. So, and came off. And I can say that I became the voice for that era. That from that moment on, I became the voice, so much so on one particular event, I didn't go because I got outbid by another promoter at last minute for a lot of money, and I went. And he said it affected him and his rave so much that on his next flyer there was a massive spiel that Magica was going to apologise in public, and I became a big part of everything he did. Everything that he did, I was on. But also that he said some really good things to me over the years. He supported me when I wanted advice. I went to him for advice. I remember when I was going through some grief and stuff at the Stevenage thing, and he was outside, and he said to me, "You need to walk with some boys. You're a known guy now. You're going into certain areas and places where, you know, people are going to not be so nice. There's going to be some jealous people. There's going to be also some racists." And this was Murray saying it to me. And I never went out to look for people to come out with me. I think one of the biggest things so he advised me to do all that, and we'll go back to Murray, but I then met Sticksman, which we'll talk about, and Sticks, and there was a crew of people now. There was some Asian, some black, and even some white, and everybody was like kind of street. And from that moment on, I never had any grief at all, man. No, nothing. Nobody came with any kind of madness towards me in an event, or, you know, I'd have people walk past me in a rave and go, "You packy." You know, I remember being at a world dance and a guy walking past me going, "Yeah, you piece of dog shit." And I went, "Pardon?" Because, "Yeah, you're the colour of dog shit, mate, fucking foreigner." And I was like, wow. And I didn't know how to look after myself physically then. Different story now. You know, I'm a 2-time black belt martial artist. And one of the things though why I went into martial arts was because some of the stuff that was happening in the rave scene. I always questioned myself for, if anything happened, would I be able to look after myself? And thank God, I was never attacked apart from one incident, which we'll talk about in the rave scene. Murray was a big advocate in support whenever I needed. He was a voice. And when he passed away, it was very sad, man. It was sad for a lot of people, but it was very sad personally. Something went missing that night. Something, dropped, and I felt a bit vulnerable then. I thought, shit, this was a guy that was really behind me, and I was opening a lot of doors. And there was even at a time when there were certain promoters around the country wouldn't have me because I was Murray's guy. It was just really weird how people were. But that changed. Things do change if you just keep pushing and stuff and doing what you do, and opportunities can come good. I think the most important thing is when certain promoters can get an impression of you, or if they think you're associated with someone else and they can get to know you a little bit, then that can change. And that did change. And I'll miss him. I still do.
I think the whole rave scene, anyone who went to a Dreamscape in the 90s would say exactly the same, and they in fact do. You also became very close with Dave Pratley, Emceeing at Helter Skelter. We're going to ask you about a potential reunion, but same question, same as Murray question. What was it that made and makes Dave such a great promoter and Helter Skelter such a great event?
It's like what I said to you when we had that little chat last year about Skelter, and it's the same thing. I'm not going to veer away from what I said then. So Dave is a very, very hard-working man. He comes from the travelling community. Parents run fairs and stuff. These are grafters out there setting up fairs in all kinds of weather and terrain, and working and grafting, sometimes making money, sometimes not. He comes from that school of hard knocks, of hard work. So he wasn't new to that at all, or inexperienced when it came to that. So that was the biggest thing. He had the stomach for it. He was very professional, very well managed, spoke really well, treated people quite fairly, to my knowledge, treated people really well. Even though he made us MCs work, he made us work, mate. I've never known anyone, mate. He made us work.
In what way? In what way,
mate? Well, I just put it out there. We weren't paid a lot of money, not for the work we did. We used to go there and we'd do like 4 or 5 sets. And in the end, I'd started to say to him, listen, can't work like 4 or 5 sets. This is just flesh and bone. We're not robots and machines, you know what I'm saying? And it's just, it was a lot. It was a lot. You'd go there and you'd be given an itinerary on the day. There was no communication. I never had an agent, you know what I mean? Well, I wish I did, because I would have been managed a lot better. And I probably wouldn't have had to speak and engage to promoters as I did and fall out with people and stuff like that, you know? But it used to go there and you'd have like a slots, and there'd be like about 4 or 5 slots, mate, starting from like 10:45, going all the way till like 5 in the morning. And in the end, it was, listen, if you're a raver, you're a raver. But I was working there. It was work to me. It was different. And it was a bit much. I mean, listen, loved my experience, loved being there, loved being a part of it, loved the fact that I can say that I've got that stripe on my shoulder, and it's archived forever within my history. But it wasn't a straightforward entrance into HELTER. When HELTER came about, I remember Dave from when him and Penny owned a venue in Telford, Wellingborough. It used to be an old cinema or something. And he teamed up with Jez Bailey and Carl from Quest, and they managed to get Club Fantasia, because Carl and Jez were close to the Fantasia lot, and they managed to do Club Fantasia and a few other things. And he did some of the raves before at the Fun House and Milwaukee's and stuff like that, you know, in the 90s, so in the late 90s. So he's got a lot of experience, Dave has. But when it came to doing HELTER SKELTER, I remember seeing him at, it was actually at a Universe show. And my friend who drove me there decided to leave me there, Tom. Left me in the middle of Wiltshire and drove off home. And I'm going to mention him, Mark. And he's a good friend of my brother today still. We call him the dirty one for a reason, right? And he left me there. And I was outside and I'm asking people to get home, because it was like train stations were like miles away and stuff. And Dave, actually, he had a little post office van, and full of flyers. Him and his wife just grafted the event, flyed. He had to wait for them. And he said, I'll drop you at a train station in Banbury and you can get the train from there and go home. And he actually changed his mind on the way and said, I'm going to drop you in Brum. And he dropped me in Brum. It's a lovely guy. He did, yeah. So when he first came out with HELTER SKELTER, I remember same again, approaching, networking. He just didn't want to know. And he made it kind of clear that, look, you know, you're Murray's guy. I want to move away from that, even though the crossover with the DJs was there. All the DJs were playing, apart from a few. There was Murray had his sound, you know, he had his Dougals and Bookums and stuff like that. Dave went and there were crossover acts, but for the first one, he came with a bang. He booked the Prodigy and stuff. He was just there, and I tried to get on the bill, and he just wasn't interested. And I saw him a couple of times, and I'm quite persistent, very, very persistent. But I yeah, I know. He just said no, and I actually resided in the fact it was not going to happen. And that was it. And I actually did. I gave up. I thought I could move on. I'll just move on and crack on. And then I got a phone call, that famous phone call, and I remember I was on my way to London, and he just said, the first thing he said is, Dave Pratley, HELTER SKELTER, how you doing? Yeah. He goes, I guess I'm too late. I went, no, not at all. No, mate, I'd love to be there. Went and did the show. Again, that mentality, that focus, that drive came off. Went and sat in the car. I had Sticksman with me. We were sat in the car, and he looked at me to pay me, and he went, I think I need to make this a regular. Are you up for it? I went, yeah. And then I became synonymous with Skelter all the way up until probably the millennium. Early 2001, when I did Accelerated Culture, he booked me for the drum and bass room. And then I think I hosted the Accelerated Culture Drum and Bass Awards, I think 2002. He actually got me to host them. And I hosted them. And then we kind of lost touch, communication after that. And then I just, here and there, always try to stay in touch and just say hello. And then when I started sort of becoming known as a promoter, I actually did a HELTER SKELTER event with him actually in Birmingham, which was great at the Q Club 2003. And then after that, yeah, we kind of lost touch and contact. But then I think it was around 2007, 8, started to try and just get back in touch again slowly. And then it was young raver called Shawnee Bertie, God rest his soul. There's a lot of people passing away. I keep hearing myself saying God rest his soul, man. Makes you think. I said, so Shawnee Bertie contacted me, and he was an avid fan of the rave scene, but he was a supporter of me, and he showed me a lot of love, and he was a troubled guy as well, and he unfortunately passed away. But when he set the group up, he had no intentions. He just was a fan, and it had about 300 members. And he said, "Listen, can you help me? Can you help me just turn it into something? If you just become an admin and you take the lead with it, and I can just sit on the sideline and help you." And I said, yeah, okay, let's do it. And then I then started to contact Dave slowly. It was like always, no. I always said on that group that, listen, this is never say never. Just keep going, because that's just how I am, as we've uncovered. So it just kept happening, just kept pushing. And of course, people are going to have opinions. Oh, this is leading us on, and this, that, the other. I never said there was a guarantee. I just said, look, we're going to try. Let's just build a community, and let's just try. And I got a breakthrough last year, and Dave invited me to come and have dinner with him during the lockdown when they opened up some of the places and stuff. We went out for dinner, and we caught up, which was very interesting. And we talked about him, we talked about his life, and we talked about, because he's very, very successful in property. And we talked about the possibility of doing an event and how to do it and where we should do it and the options and stuff. So we started to talk about stuff. And then he became very aware he knew about the group anyway, because he was always looped in. And then he started to support the group. And even just late last year, he went into storage, pulled out loads of competition memorabilia, gave us loads of stuff. And this brings it back. I mean, I know you're probably going to ask me about his involvement and why he hasn't surfaced on the Skelter group. And a lot of the artists, when we've been pushing, especially when we had dinner in the summer, they've all asked him. And listen, if someone came to me and said, any artist, and said, listen, I'm running this page, I'm love the nostalgia and the memorabilia and all the memories it's creating, and but I want to push this page. Would you come on here, Magica, and bless the page? Because, I'm going to try and get Dave to do something. Even I would have called Dave and said, listen, I've been asked to do this thing. Can you tell me more? And he's had everybody ringing. Nicky Black Market rang him 3 weeks ago. Charlie B came on here on a video and said, listen, man, I spoke to Dave and it looks good. The reason why Dave hasn't come on it, because he's not public. And he's very shy. He doesn't like doing stuff like that.
But, so Daniel Clark, when we put out for questions, there's a guy called Daniel Clark who follows us, and he makes a very valid point. And he says that there's obviously a lot of talk about it all, but I can't be alone in wondering why we haven't had an official word from the Pratley family about it. We hear through Magica that Dave said this and Dave said that, etc. But just a 10-second video, actually seeing Dave mention it, that wouldn't be so tough, would it? I think it would definitely seal the deal for a lot of people. Not that I'm saying it's not legit as it is, but it would certainly put some minds at rest. And he's got a point, hasn't he? Look, right? I'm speaking to you, and I'm speaking to all of our audience here as a journalist, right? I'm telling you, and I don't need to tell you, but I'm telling everybody listening to this that I've had it from more than one source, which journalistically is enough to say that this is a thing that's going to happen, that it's going to happen. Now, I wouldn't be saying it if I hadn't heard that, right? So as a journalist, I know that it's something that's under consideration from Dave Pratley. And people are questioning me and go, well, who do you speak to? Who do you know? Just trust me, right? I'm a journalist. It's double-sourced, probably more than that, triple-sourced, four-sourced, right? But as a raver, if I didn't have these links in, if I didn't create this podcast, as a raver, and I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, well, why aren't they saying anything? Because we know as well, G, with respect, you've said this before for quite a number of years and it's never happened. So what makes this different? Why won't he just come out and say even just a little thing? It is something I'm thinking about. It's not definite, not guaranteed, but it's something I'm thinking about.
Listen, it'd be great for him to do that. And I've spoke to him on numerous occasions and said, listen, can you do a video? At one point he was considering it. Then he said, I don't want to do it. I just want to come out and do it and announce it when we've got something to announce. And one of the conversations we had, even recently, said, listen, if this COVID shit wasn't happening, we could have been sorting something out. And he said, I'm in a much better position now because I was so busy with my business, and he's mega chocker now, just with the backlog and stuff. And he said, look, you know, when the COVID things, we're going to be in a better position to have a conversation, to discuss things, to possibly do something. And look at it. He's always been kept in the loop. He's aware of everything. He sends me messages all the time. I can't believe the group, how well it's grown. And then we discuss how well the group's done because of the content in the group and how well the group's performed, and how well it's done, and why it's done as well as it has, and the things that we've put in place to keep the group really friendly. And that's something that we can talk about as well, because I think it's very important. And he's been asked to do a video. He's been asked to do a letter. He's asked to do a few words. He just said, listen, G, a lot of people know me. A lot of artists know me, because, you know, people have been calling me, ringing me on the phone and asking me. And everybody knows that we're talking. Everybody knows that I'm around. I just gave loads of memorabilia away. I'm here. I'm watching. I don't need to say anything until it's time to say anything. And he said, you just got to respect me. And I said, yeah, that's cool. So I've asked a question for everybody out there. Come on, just show a sign of life. But I'm hoping that even though you've confirmed, people have spoke to him, prolific people in the scene have spoke to him, Slickmat spoke to him, Shane Vibes has spoke to him, loads of people have spoke to him, and he said the same thing to all of them, that this is a strong possibility of happening and coming into play. And he even said to me, because at one point we saw a guy bootlegging jackets, and we intervened, and there was loads of orders in place. And Dave stopped it all happening because, so rightly, so he should. That was his thing. Dave's protected his brand. He's had a lot of money offered for his brand for people to host arenas and stuff. And he hasn't done that like some people. He's kept it because that's how he wants it. He wants it kept safe and clean and not hammered. You know, like, for example, look at Dreamscape. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. No, absolutely right. And it is a valuable brand that remains so, and you wouldn't want to do anything that downgrades it. But you've pushed this in the past and it hasn't happened, which is why some people don't believe it, G. So, like, is it not reputationally risky for you to back something like this, which, even if Dave is interested, as I'm telling you that he is, right, and, you know, lots of people are saying that he is, it might not happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's going to leave you with egg on your face again. And so why is this so important to you, that you are willing to risk your reputation for something that you know as well might not happen?
Well, at the end of the day, is it going to really risk my reputation? Some people will see it as that. For me, it was about nostalgia. It was about having that huge reunion done properly, like Dave can do. For me to be involved, because we're going to touch on my programming. I've done some huge events, man. Some serious things, and to be involved, that'll be absolutely phenomenal. On the business sense, and to be involved and to help. Away from that, it'd be great to see everybody out. It'd be great to see that reunion. It'd be great to see the 40s plus going up to 60, coming out for that blowout. It'd be very something special, something we're probably only going to see probably once in our life. Look, man, at the end of the day, the reality is, without saying more, we're running out of time. How many people are passing away? So it'd be great to see something special happen, because I just think it'd be a great reunion. And listen, I've always said at the beginning, I can't promise, but I'm going to do everything I can. Now, going from the conversations I've had, they've been very, very positive that something at the end of all this, when there's clarity for him, something's going to happen. And he also said to me, when I said about the merchandise, he said, G, because I said to him when he stopped the bootleg guy doing the jackets, I said, why don't you just do a little range for Christmas? And he went, G, when we do this, we'll do it properly. We'll do the whole lot. So I'm only going off what he's told me as well, and what he's told other people. So there won't be egg on my face. If he doesn't do it, then he's had a change of heart. But at the moment, it's looking very, very positive. He's telling the same thing to everybody else, all the people in the know. Like you said, you're a journalist. You've heard it yourself as well. So we'll just keep chugging away. We're just about to reach 25,000 on the group. The group's still surging forward. That keeps him interested because just that group alone will sell that event out. And he's seen how big of a platform it is. So we just keep doing what we're doing. We keep supporting, we keep loving them and feeling the music and celebrating the legacy and the times of Helter Skelter. And when he's ready to come out and play, the world will know. And that's his request. That's his wishes.
And it seems a common refrain in your career, really, doesn't it? Getting pally with the promoters. I know you had a rocky intro to Murray Beetson, as you've said, but you get pally with the promoters. Is this the secret of being a successful rave artist?
I think, listen, if you become an artist, it's like a working relationship. Your working relationship needs to be strong with everyone that you work with in any field. But when something like this and so sort of niche and where you have an impact, you know, it's like a boxing promoter. I keep referencing boxing. A boxing promoter with a successful boxer is going to have a good relationship, hopefully, you know. And I think that's the case with some of the promoters I work with. I was an instrumental part of some of these experiences, these journeys with these organisations, and a prolific character, whether you like me or not. And that's the secret here. That's where you build those relationships, because that's how you build those persons' nights and experiences, where you turn that rave arena into like a concert-styled, you know, arena of mayhem, a theatre of madness. And they remember you for that, you know what I mean? And you can build good relationships. And if you've got good relationships with them, it's only going to solidify things for years to come later on down the line.
Your name's not down, you're not coming in.
We continue our interview with MC Magika, and aka G, as we call him. We've talked about some of the big events that you've played. What was the biggest event you've ever played at?
I think the biggest event I did was Dance Valley, Holland, and being emceeing on a drum and bass stage. But then, because they heard the vocal techniques and the voice, they asked me to go and host one of the main stages. And the main stage at that time, it was all different acts like Yoji, Bia Mahanika from Japan, who I went to work with, huge hard house star, you know, all kinds of Scott Project and all kinds of stuff, crazy stuff. And 64,000. And that was the biggest.
Wow.
That was the biggest thing. And I remember my friend coming with me, Franklin, from Birmingham, and he stood at the back, and I said to the promoter at the end, Ricardo, I said, listen, I want you to get your main tower to dip the lights, and I'm going to do something to finish this because it was a day thing into night. It's dark now. And I said, I'm going to finish this thing in sort of a spectacular fashion. He said, I'm not going to question you. You just go and do what you got to do. And I was just like, so the lights went down, and I got everybody to get their lighters out and light up the place. And it was like, it was something that I'll never forget. When I looked at that, and I thought lots of things. I thought, look at this, look where I am, look where I've got to, look what I'm doing, look what I'm helping to create right now, the opportunity that I've got. All these things were flashing through, and there's more. There's more from me here. There's more from me to come, and it was all self-projected, but it was. Would I be wrong to be thinking all those things? No, of course not, man. Not for me, anyway.
I mean, if you're performing to 64,000 people, I think you can allow yourself a moment of reflection where you think, "Fucking hell, this is good." Well, Jason Gall asks, because we ask for questions from our listeners, and if anyone else wants to get in touch, by the way, as you can see that name on the screen there. If you're watching on video, hello@the90sravepodcast.co.uk. If you're listening on audio, that's the email address if you want to get in touch with us at all. But Jason Gall has asked, the first MC I ever heard on Dreamscape 12 with Dougal was Magika. Love that tape, especially the mix from Sample Mania into Take Me Away and the emceeing during that tradition. Does Magika have a favourite emceeing moment? I mean, perhaps was that it?
That was one of them. There was many. The Ulster Hall was in Belfast in the midst of the IRA times. Was an historical moment. There's loads, man. We started to pick stuff. There's absolutely loads. I mean, yeah, the Dance Valley thing was a serious memory and a serious achievement. To be given that platform to go there, they believed in me, and up I went, and I did what I was asked to do, and I delivered it really well, and it was a great thing. And I've got the pictures at home and stuff, and etc. And it's that was a great moment. There was others, man. There was loads of stuff where I've gone out and performed and had some serious moments.
Have you ever had an Emceeing nightmare? Because Andy Morley says, what happened at Dreamscape 21 New Year's Eve? The live link up between the Sanctuary and the Bath and West Showground. You MC'd for Dougal in Milton Keynes. Cyan Ribs on the midnight set in Bath. Listen to the tape back. The live link royally fucked up. What happened?
Yeah, it just didn't work, mate. The more you tried.
I mean, when was that? 90?
Yeah.
Or 96 or so? I mean, no surprise it didn't work, frankly.
Yeah. And you had that BT still image satellite thing that was going around, and Murray tried it, but he dressed it up a bit more bigger than what it was. So he put big pictures of satellites like it was going to be some proper satellite broadcasting, and it wasn't. And it didn't work. It didn't work. And
was that embarrassing as when you were up on stage as an MC?
Not really, because not really, because it was a bit confusing, but I had to just carry on.
Right.
But to be honest with you, I didn't even know it was happening because I couldn't hear nothing.
Right.
I know when I heard the tape later, could hear Ribs coming through the speaker and stuff going, he just doesn't shut up. But because I couldn't hear you, mate. I'm MCing, I couldn't hear you. It's not like the music stopped and we said hello to each other. You're right, mate.
Yeah.
It was,
I don't know. I mean, I wasn't there, of course, but I don't know how that's ever meant to work. Like two different performances on two different stages, blasted out.
He probably had a guy around him in production who said, "Listen, we can make it work. It's not going to be great, but you'll see some kind of imagery." And he dressed it up and made it look like it was going to, because there was huge satellites on the flyer. It was never that, mate. It was never that, and that's not me cussing. It just it was never that.
Yeah, I mean, as we say, it was the mid-90s. These things were very difficult to pull off. They're difficult to pull off now, but they were even more difficult to pull off then. We're in the age of digital now, so it's a bit easier. Also, in terms of that embarrassment, you say you weren't embarrassed then, but did you ever get embarrassed? Have you ever been embarrassed on stage? Because if you mess something up, I've weirdly, given I've been a national radio presenter, the idea of being left alone. I had a brain freeze once on air, and it was like I was in the studio on my own, presenting to the nation on TalkSport, and it was late at night, and I just had a brain freeze, and it haunted me. It's haunted me ever since. And I actually said to my producer at the time, I was like, I never want to be alone in the studio ever again. Because to be honest, I prefer being in a studio with other people anyway, where you can talk to them and riff off them and whatever. But I said I never want to do that, and it's haunted me ever since. Have you ever had a moment like that where you've been really horribly embarrassed, or do you, as an MC, have to try to not have that sense of shame?
Any embarrassing moments? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I've had them. Whether I can remember, I'm sure I was at a rave once and I said the wrong name at the rave. Oh, I remember one. I
mean, I think a few people have got in touch and say, I want to hear the, 3 words, hardcore will never die, and that sort of thing. I mean, that's you just slip of the tongues, aren't they, really?
Yeah, listen, man, those things of, things happen, like people can get technical if they like, you know what I mean? I've said a few things that haven't had major. I think, where was it one rave? Where was it? I can't remember where it was. But here's a funny one for you. There was big rave, big stage. I've walked along, freaking hole in the stage, mate.
Trapdoor.
It fell.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh dear. How far? How far?
Gone.
Yeah. How big was the hole?
Big enough to take me. Yeah, about 6 foot.
Wow.
Yeah, gone. I'm 5'11", so I was gone. I could see the hole, I went straight down. I'm lucky I never broke my leg.
Yeah.
I fell really well.
Right.
And back then, probably would have got sued, man. You know what I'm saying?
What did you do? Climb out and carry on emceeing?
No, I had to go underneath. Come back out.
Pulling the microphone out by the cable.
Yeah. No. The microphone was left there for the technician to get. That was his job.
Brilliant. We've had another question, and you don't need to go on about this too much, but it's a question from a listener. Zen Sergai says, being the only old school Asian MC that he knows of, what struggles did you face? I know that you've said that there was some racism, and we're going to come on later to Vibalite and the incident in particular that Gary referenced, where you were racially abused. But was there racism, particularly because you don't have a typical sort of rave geezer background, I suppose? Did you get it? We know that you've had it from some ravers. Did you ever have it from any artists, or was it purely just from punters?
I had a few incidences with some promoters. I'm not going to go into that. But there was some incidences. Like,
you don't have to say who, but like what?
One promoter had a member of his crew, and he had a bit to drink, and he jumped out in front of me, and he was like at a rave. He jumped out in front of me while I was walking up to the stage, and I don't know what he was doing. There was a famous MC stood next to him, and he was doing something. He was like gesturing towards me. And he said, "Fucking Packy," and that was like, yeah, okay. And it's a good job that I did not know how to fight and stuff, because I just wasn't that way. I wouldn't have known what to do. It would have been a really messy situation because I didn't know how to tackle any kind of confrontation.
What did you feel? Because that's a person in power. I don't know who the promoter is. It's sort of, we're not going to name them, but that's a person in power. That's a person who's got the ability to pay your wages, and so therefore that's an unfair power balance, isn't it? How did you feel that there's a person who's got the ability to improve or negatively impact your career, talking to you in that way?
I felt like, well, what do you think? How do you think? Belittled, As I said, no one's going to really... People with logic, regardless of what nationality you are, going to go, yo, that's rough, man. Especially people in today's day and age. But there's some people out there, like I saw a comment not long ago, a few days ago online, especially after Gaz Jakes' comment. Guy said, it's just a name. And I looked at the person's profile and I thought, you live up north, you're Caucasian, you can see from your profile the kind of things that you politically follow. And it's just a name. And that's the ignorance that that we're up against, and it's still there today. You know what I mean? And that person, that promoter, belittles you, man. Makes you feel insignificant. Was almost like going back to school where I was racially abused in my school. It was just like going back. Then I thought that was an era that I'd left.
How did the fact that you would experience this? Do you think that the way that you experienced this impacted upon your outer shell and your persona that has led some people to view you in a certain way?
Listen, let's talk about the outer shell and viewing me in a certain way. It depends on what context you're talking about, because there's a multitude of things going on here, mate. There's people that do not know me at all. There's people who are going to have me misunderstood. There's going to be people out there that have come across me and have perceived me in a manner which they think is negative. There's going to be people who haven't got a clue what they're saying. They're just going, oh, because he was an MC and shit, and we don't like him, he's a prat, he's a knobhead, blah, blah, blah. Very quick and flippant to talk and shout abuse and make opinions. And then there's people that I've made mistakes with. There's people that I've fallen out with because of business. I'm very, very passionate and was very outspoken, and sometimes I would tell you and get into conflict. And those are just part of the journey for me. It was just a learning curve. Do you know what I mean? And but there's lots of people out there, because I want to focus on this, Tom. There's a lot of people out there that like me and show me a lot of support and a lot of love.
There are. And there were people who've sent messages of support. Tony Milani says, I've seen a lot of venom and undeserved hate slung at you over the years. How do you cope? Where do you draw your strength from? And, that's a question I'm going to come back to shortly. But to be fair as well, people have contacted us to say that you would, for instance, as an example, offer to meet to fight your online critics. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. You can tell me if it's true. But if it were true, you know, why do you think that's a good idea? Now, I'm telling you, right, as a journalist who also advises people on the media and on PR, the best advice that you can possibly give to anybody going through a PR crisis, and that's what it is, someone criticizing you online, is to just ignore it and move on. Because if they see you rise to it, and we had an incident at the start of this podcast where someone did something similar. I mean, I'm not going to name them. They are non-people in this world, right? But what we did, we took a decision. We're not going to engage with it because that's what they want. We made a statement and we moved on. And it was the best advice, the best move that we could have possibly made. Why don't you do more of that? Or why haven't you in the past done more of that? And do you regret not doing so?
Okay, I do that now. Even though, like I said to you, I'm human and certain things can get to me. I'm not bulletproof. However, and that's just being honest, back then I did not know how to channel it, and I didn't have people around me to help guide me to be able to deal with these situations, Tom. And some of these people I drew myself in. And when I drew myself in, it led to some unpleasant conversations where I was defending myself and above and beyond the means that I should have gone. And yes, there was online. Someone posted, I was threatening people in the car park. I've never, right? Yes, online. Yeah, I had some exchanges, man. I didn't deal with the internet very well. I see stuff now, and it's hurtful, man. Some of the stuff is like, there's one comment I saw, right, not long ago, and someone put a post online only a few weeks ago, and they said, you guys are just someone I don't even know. So you're trolling Magica. You're literally trolling, and it's like bullying. You know, this is just basically it was out of order. You're actually trolling an adult, and it's bullying, and the impacts of it have got to be severe. It can't be nice. And this one guy put underneath, his name was Jamie. Don't know his surname, but I would have mentioned him. And he started off really philosophical. It was like a really educated kind of stance, talking about the impacts and statistics and about the bullying and people committing suicide and all this type of stuff. And then at the end, he put, but I'll make an exception for Magica. And I just thought, and then other people put, really? But you don't know him. And this is the kind of levels of people, how flippant they are. They have no regard of how they're communicating or what they're saying.
Why do you think that people treat you like this?
Why do you think?
I'm asking
you.
As a journalist. I don't know. I'm asking you. I don't live in your life. I don't live in your. And unless you've walked 500 miles in a man's shoes or whatever, I'm asking you.
Well, I'm going to say a multitude of things. Like I said before, there's people that don't like me as an MC, so they'll express themselves in an inapt way, untoward, and unorthodox, manner, with lots of foul abuse, and they'll express themselves quite explicitly. There's people who've probably met me. It could have been a person that walked past me and I gave the wrong look to or didn't talk to. There's people that, and I hear it more from fans. People in the scene, it could be people probably didn't get what they wanted from me as a promoter, or an occurrence they might have had with me as an artist. People do. It happens all the time. You see it online. People fall out all the time. But members of the public, that they don't know me, and they're making opinions of a person, and we'll throw jealousy in there as well. I'm very proactive. I'm doing a lot of things. We'll throw the hate in there as well. There's that, So I'll throw in everything there. Some of the stuff that I've read. Listen, I'm not going to lie. I try to channel it well. It does challenge me mentally. Listen, you cannot feel good about reading stuff of that level.
Yeah, but that's the point. But that's the point. No one feels good about this stuff. When people criticize my presenting on this, it breaks my heart. But you know what? If you respond to it, they'll do it again because they know it gets you. That's the point. One of the things you do, and a few people have asked this question too, is why do you not allow any criticism of yourself in the Helter Skelter organization, for instance?
Okay, so I'm gonna make that very, very clear. So this isn't just about me. Okay, there was an artist on there, and the comments that people made about this artist's sexuality were absolutely disgusting. Disgusting. That's not the rave scene for me. Let's put me into perspective now. Right? Helter Skelter as a group, it's like a house. I don't own it, but I live in there. I live in that house, and I don't want that energy on there. And a lot of people don't want it on there. Lots of people. And you find people are very quick, and it puts a dampener. Then there was another artist who contacted me, and he said, I'm never going to come into that group because it's absolutely disgusting. It reminds me of Ush.net, and we know what happened to Ush. They actually got shut down. And some of the things I was reading on there, and let's take me out of the equation. Yeah, let's take me out of the equation for a minute. On artists was really, really bad. Like, really bad. And I even saw well-known artists posting who were saying, listen, are you really expecting Dave Pratley to come and put a thing on when you're doing stuff like this? So we made a rule. We made a rule. And I aligned myself with sort of stalwarts from the scene, Slipmat, Shane Vibes. You know, Marlon's come on board from the movement, which is racism against jungle, drum and bass, old school against racism. And he came on there because we were finding lots of even racist comments happening quite a lot. And we just cleaned it up. We just made it a nice place. It's not a place to vent your opinions of a hateful place. And we go and look on other groups, like someone.
But constructive criticisms is part of development and growth, isn't it? Like, you know, we're today, you know, we are having a constructive conversation that is constructively critical at times of you, and that's important for giving a holistic picture of you and what's happening. And in the same way, if you stop people being critical in any, you know, or being at all negative, it doesn't give you a correct picture of the rave scene, Helter Skelter fans, etc.
Tom, it was going beyond being critical. They were being horrible and nasty, mate. Horrible and nasty and vindictive. Not just to me, to several people. That's not the place we're about. And it's a really nice place now. It's just full of memories. It's not the place. Listen, we've got the right to say, listen, this is not the place for it. Here, if you want to join here, you join here to talk about the lovely memories and the good things. If you want to go and vent, use your own platform. We've got the right to say that. That's the freedom. We should go and use your own platforms. Now, there was a guy in the group who got moved out and he set up his own. When you go on there, it's just full of horrible, horrible stuff. That's not what we're about. It's not what I want about it. I don't want to be reading that type of stuff. And as I said, I live in that house. So I don't want to be reading stuff about me. And I don't want to be reading stuff about the other stuff. And when I'm seeing artists even message me saying, listen, F that page, F it. Don't want nothing to do with it. It's disgusting. And that should ring home. And as I said, you know, there was one artist, the stuff they were saying about that artist was disgusting. But then you see the flip side of the love that artist has got on there from the right people. And that's all we've done. We've kept the right people on there. If you want to live, if you want to come into that community and come onto the grounds of that community, you've got to adhere to the regulations of that community. And that's just it's not about that. You want to go and do it in your own place, go for it. You want to go and join another group, go for it. You're not going to hear nothing from us. That this place isn't about criticism and growth. You could talk about tunes, you could talk about an experience at a rave, but hating on individuals and being nasty. Listen, you had a comment on your on the page that you put up for me, and you went, "Come on, people, just be nice." Blah blah blah. Same sentiment from here. Just be nice. If you want to be critical,
but yes, I did accept criticism, fair criticism. I deleted abuse.
Yeah, no, but abuse, criticism is what you can see. It's just being rude. But once the criticism opened up, here's the difference now. When you put criticism on there, the criticism evolved. It always snowballed into, and then it just became, you had to just get rid of the whole thing. So what was the point? They just couldn't control themselves. And now they do, because we just don't tolerate it.
Okay.
And that's why we do that.
Okay, we can part of that. I wanted to talk about that, and that's fine. Back to your career while we end this particular episode here. In the late 90s, you did a PA called Black Magic with Stixman. We've mentioned Stixman earlier. Nathan Paul Fisher asks, what happened to Black Magic? Did Rush Hour inspire this idea? And MC Focus asks, how did he meet Stixman? Where is he now? And finally, Warren Turner, what happened between you and Stixman? So there you go. You can. There's a few questions you can answer.
So basically, the Black Magic project was put together pre-Rush Hour. It was just wanted to make tracks. So I met a guy called Lee Spiker when I was in London, good engineer, and we started making music. And then Rush Hour were doing their thing, but that was more sort of like PA-led, and it wasn't about making music. And I just said to like a few people and promoters, look, we've got this thing, we want to push it. And it was going places. It was really, really going to go places. And there was a few differences with the band, and it just wasn't going to go. And it happens a lot in crews and projects. It just wasn't going to happen. It was a shame because it literally did. That project probably would have got signed to a major. I really, really believe. And it's not because I wanted it to. I really think it would have. Some of the stuff that we did musically, which I'm going to post probably after this up on my page from the set from HELTER SKELTER, those tunes were ahead of time. They were ahead of time. And a lot of people were talking about us. And we were getting pitched left, right and centre. And we've actually all come together just recently to have a conversation. And just for some nostalgia, we're going to do a tune. We're going to do a Black Magic tune, okay. Which we're going to put together, and just for nostalgia. And if it goes somewhere, it goes. But we're all busy and stuff. But we're going to do one. We're going to do one because people, you know, we grow and we change and stuff. So that's what happened with Black Magic. Stixman, I met him because I lived locally to him. I kept seeing him, and we kept having conversations. He talked about reggae sound systems and he's involved in music. I told him about my stuff, and I ended up dragging him to a rave. Later down the line, I moved to London. He used to live by me where I used to live by my mum. He moved from there. When I moved to London, things became distant, and we just grew apart. But we've connected again. We talk and we message, and we show a lot of respect to each other. We're talking at the moment about the Black Magic thing, and we show a lot of each other love. So people grow apart, people move on, but in life, some of us can be reacquainted, and we have. And he's in my book, and he's someone that I class as a friend, and we have some really lovely conversations.
Well, that's good news. And if you want to read that book, by the way, Make Some Noise by MC Magika is on pre-sale now. If you want to get in touch with us, hello at the 90s Rave Podcast.co.uk. We're on all your social media channels. We're on YouTube if you're listening on audio. We're on audio if you're watching on YouTube. So check us out wherever you are and join the community because there's loads going on. It's great fun. Well, that's it for another episode of Raw, and if you like what you've heard, we'd love you to get involved. All of us here at Raw HQ buzz hard off how much you, the Raw crew, enjoy our work, and your generous cash donations have been a huge help since our launch. But we're now a team of 5, putting in combined 80 hours a week for no wages. We've got loads of plans to go further, expand our team and offer, but that does mean that our costs are also increasing. So we could really use your help to keep Raw growing and developing, as you've done since we started. So please do check out our website. Initially, it's rawuk.com for interesting extra content and to get your hands on our first ever range of Raw merchandise. That's rawuk.com. We've also launched a new membership scheme where you can donate to create more interesting and fun content on an ongoing basis, and you'll even get stuff in return. So head to patreon.com/rawukpods. That's patreon.com/rawukpods to see what's on offer. You can also join our YouTube membership, which is the same, or if you're not bothered about membership but you'd like to support us with a few quid as a one-off or repeat donation, head to our website and click the PayPal link. That website URL, one more time, rawuk.com. Respect to you for your support and for getting to the end of this episode. Please keep supporting us and help ensure there's more quality content coming your way on a regular basis. Oi, oi.